We're back. We are so back. YouTube, how you doing? Your girl has been gone for some years, actually. Don't even ask me what happened because I don't know. And YouTube doesn't know either. What's really funny about this entire situation is that YouTube ran out of reasons that I was suspended. They couldn't even tell me what I did. In fact, they told me to tell them what I did because they ran out of reasons. At that time, I realized how big of a flex that was, and I just walked away because I don't have time for that. I know we are in an ideological war. And if you don't want to agree, if you disagree, that's fine. But go on ahead and share some of that naivete because I need some of that, baby. I need some of that. We are in an ideological war, unfortunately. And that means that if someone doesn't like your opinion, you can't use their platform. Unfortunately, that's what happened. So, where have I been? I guess coming back to this platform, I have an objective now, clear as day. I'm going to catch you guys up on where I've been. And so I've thought about what's the best video I can produce? What's going to be my first video back? And I thought about reacting to my old content. You see, I started my walk away from the Democratic Party journey years ago, before the pandemic. So it's been about a decade, to be honest. And I was a young woman back then. I was still in my 20s. And I'm grown now. Us millennials, we are not spring chickens. So I just really want to look back at my old content to see if my opinions have evolved. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to look back at my old walkaway video, and I'm going to start with the video that was covering political bias that I received. It's only fair that I catch you guys up on where I've been and what happened to that professor that blocked my graduation. And if you're cool with that, let's watch, because I have an update for you. I think you're going to like it. Ooh, Lord. You know I was depressed. My face looks so different. Looking at these archives make me cry. God. No, I'm just gonna probably coming on my period. Look at how I look. My face doesn't look like that anymore. I've lost a lot of weight, actually. I can look at my eyes and just tell that I was so freaking depressed. And I was carrying all that weight. Eating my feelings. All right, let's watch the video. Bless this mess. I took a break. It was much needed. I came back to talk a little bit about where I've been. Well, most of you know that I'm the girl from the hood. Mm-hmm. I'm the crack baby. I'm the millennial. And yeah, the hood makes conservatives like me every day in every way. But we are conditioned to walk into a booth and vote blue. When you're black, you're blue. I need to put that on a t-shirt. It's very true. This is one of my last videos, which I published in October, mid-October, late October. And it talked a little bit about a subject which I didn't think that I would be so open about. Because, yeah, I'm open about things about my life. You know, you live in poverty, you're from the hood, you're a crack baby, and also your mother overdosed behind a Burger King trash can, like a Burger King dumpster situation. Behind Burger King. My mother lost her life behind Burger King. She overdosed. I've shared so many things about myself on this platform, and why now would I even suggest that making a video about political bias and what happened to me at my university? Like, why would that even, why would I count that as being more vulnerable than the things that I've already shared? It makes no sense, and I totally get that, but it's just how I feel. I think it's easier for me to talk about things that I am, because where I'm from, I'm not ashamed of it whatsoever, but I am ashamed about being the victim, always. There was no better place to pursue a political dream than the nation's capital. To be very, very clear, that's probably why I stayed in the swamp that Washington, D.C. is. To be very clear, that's why I was up in that swamp for as long as I was there. Always going to be ashamed about being anybody's victim. So when something happens to me, I'd rather take it on the chin, charge it to the gang, than cry like a pathetic little baby, which is what I did in that last video. So I made a very weighty accusation about the school that I was registered in. Maybe I'm stupid because I went back to school at one of the worst times anyone could try to go back to school. And that was when Donald Trump was president and everything was hyper representative on steroids, especially within politics. I wanted to finish my political science degree. There was no better place to do it than the nation's capital. So I enrolled into a school that I would come to find is probably one of the most politically biased schools on planet Earth. One thing that I love about the conservative, libertarian, independent space is that when you make accusations, you better prove it. You need to back it up. And I kind of carried the attitude where I didn't need to put time or energy into proving anything, because It's hard to prove something that someone said to you. It's almost impossible. If I walk out of my apartment right now, if I get cursed out, if I get threatened, if I don't have a witness to that shit, I can't prove a damn thing. Now, what happened to me, this wasn't a situation where I needed to prove who said what. I have all my receipts. My teacher was bold enough to write everything down. I'm glad that I had sense enough to at least communicate that. Just because some people would go, well, you know, prove it, like a broken record. And I'm just like, have you ever heard of something called Blackboard? Like, those are where all records of exchanges between students and professors are. Like, my professor was so bold that he would say the most out-of-pocket things to me and have no fear about it. So it's almost as if I took on the abuse just because I knew that in the end, I would win. Because there would be no his word against mine. Because everything was recorded. Boy, was I wrong. So, most of you know the story, but I know I have some new subscribers, so I'm just going to tell it again. I can recap. Give you the Reader's Digest version. I went back to school after promising my mom. I did promise her that I would finish my degree. I was at the morgue. I had to identify her body, and I just felt like a total and complete failure that I couldn't give her something to be proud of before she lost her life. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get a degree. I promise, Mom. That's what I'm going to at least accomplish in this little life of mine. And so I went back to school, and I registered for a course called Methods of Political Science. And this is a course where you, the student, bring your own topic of interest to research for 3.5 months. Because this topic is probably going to be the topic that you get to write once you reach senior seminar. So Methods of Political Science is a prerequisite to senior seminar. So very, very interesting that I made that point. A lot of people go, well, maybe you failed the class because you just couldn't keep up with like the homework and the curriculum. Let me tell you something. This class was the equivalent to a study hall. You bring your own work in there. Okay, you don't produce papers. You produce ideas that have track changes all throughout the document because you don't produce papers. It's a glorified study hall. Just want to make that clear. I walk into a classroom where the first assignment is to share my name, where I'm from, share my topic of interest, and talk about why it's so important to me, why it's so dear. And I made the mistake of sharing that my topic was going to investigate why African Americans are so ideologically diverse, yet we vote monolithically. Because at that time, I exposed my conservative values in the wrong damn classroom. Oh boy. Why do I feel like this university got away with being politically biased? Just because his feedback to me accused me of having an agenda in his classroom. He accused me of having an agenda. He wrote it down. If you're familiar with university, you know that they have a platform called Blackboard, like a little Blackboard is like an engine where students upload their assignments, and then the teacher can use it ultimately as a plagiarism tool, run homework through, make sure things aren't plagiarized, and then they can give feedback to learner. So my professor decided to give me feedback in such a way that the first thing he said to me was, it's clear you have an agenda. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to make it very clear. I stand behind what happened to me. No one will ever take that away from me. One of the biggest problems I had was that I paid to be abused by an institution. That was one of the hardest things to swallow. It's one thing to walk into an atmosphere or environment and you have all these differences and ideological differences. You can, at that point in time, get up and walk away. But when you have money tied up into something, you don't have that option. You would almost think that because you're paying to receive an education, no one's going to be biased towards you because they're being paid to just do a job objectively. That was my naivete, and I paid for it. Something along those lines. You have a clear agenda, period. I really did live in delusional land for a moment. I felt like I had the upper hand because I didn't have anything to prove, because my teacher was writing all of this horrific stuff down, all of this condescending, gaslighting bullshit he was writing me on Blackboard. And it was just exposing his bias as more of a left-leaning person. Now, the problem I have is that, let's face it, I'm a millennial. We're not children anymore. We are in our late 20s, early 30s, I think. And so for me, returning to school as a grown woman, not being as impressionable as some of the adult babies I go to school with, 18, 19, 20, 21, you're not a minor anymore, but you're not grown yet. That's my feeling. That's how I feel about it. I could not believe that I was in a classroom with a man who holds a doctorate degree, and he can look at my topic, accuse me of having an agenda, and also say two of the most contradictory, incompatible things you can say to a student. Receiving criticism for my topic being too vague from this man, my professor, while in the next breath he's also telling me, well, everything about your topic has already been researched and discovered. So now me, just for me, I have the ability to reason further than a unicellular organism, right? So I have to try to make sense out of that. But really what you're telling me is that my topic is so vague that you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And also, it's so clear that you're completely sure that everything I'm trying to investigate has already been researched. This man doesn't let up. He can't. He's unstoppable because there are no checks and balances at that university. I know I encountered political bias at that university. I know that I was a student who paid for my education, who paid to go back to school. And they got over on me by failing me because I brought conservative values into their campus, I guess. And it was shocking because this is a class where anyone brings their own topic from any area of concentration, and you, the student, research it. And you just complete drafts of what could potentially become a paper. How do you fail a class like this? I remember receiving notice on Blackboard that conservative resources, and I didn't find this to be a coincidence, that all of my resources that had more conservative leaning authors like Dinesh D'Souza, Thomas Sowell, my professor wouldn't give me credit for. I remember my professor was so bold. He was like, no, you don't use these authors. Not in my classroom. He behaved as if they weren't primary or secondary sources. He just wouldn't have it in his classroom. He wrote that down. He wrote it. And then, if that wasn't enough, he pointed me in the direction of authors who are progressive. He recommended a book to me that he wants me to read, to educate myself. I'm sorry, these things are not coincidences, they are indicting. This man sent me an article that I did not ask for, which had absolutely nothing to do with my work. He sent me an article from Forbes magazine about how Donald Trump is so racist. My topic has nothing to do with Donald J. Trump. My topic was only meant to trace ideologies from the diaspora half of my people are from. That was so indicting to me as well. To be sent a random article, mind you, I don't even remember if I was in the middle of doing a homework assignment, what day of the week it was, what time it was. I just remember being randomly sent articles about Donald Trump being racist, even though my assignment had nothing to do with that whatsoever. I wasn't interested in Donald Trump and what was going on that much that I was studying him. I was studying ideologies. I wasn't bringing politics into my work. I was trying to trace ideologies back to Africa. I was just trying to trace ideologies. But this professor was so Trump deranged. He just was not fair towards me. I mean, hello? I wanted to see who was more conservative, who's more progressive. What are the ideologies in between? Why are they only expressed in one place? That's a phenomenon. Oh no, I was accused of having an agenda. So by the time that class was done, guys, I got the F on Christmas Day, I think. I opened up my grades. I think I got all A's and one F, which is also very bizarre because when you look at a student's grade book, you can kind of tell which semesters where they're struggling in their classes. But it does kind of raise two eyebrows, not one, when you have a student who's excelling everywhere except for one class. It's not a D, it's not a C or a B, it's an F. So I excelled in everything else, and then I just get an F in one class. Something's up with that. So what I was reduced to doing was appealing my grade. I went to the chairman of the social sciences department. That was a big mistake. I kind of walked away from that communication feeling like maybe the chairman and this professor who did this to me, maybe they're dating or something. Because my professor was protected so fiercely that at the end of the day, I was told that it's within his academic freedom to fail me if he felt like it. Well, I'd heard that so many times, I had to ask these doctorate holding professionals, where does your academic freedom end and where does mine begin? Okay, if you're telling me that I failed the class, could you help me understand how? Now, I'm going to be fair. I'm just going to ask that you look at my work and grade it against the criteria of the course. Tell me how my work deserved to fail. That's all I'm asking. I paid to take this class. That's all I want you to do for me right now. And so they throw up their hands and they go, okay. What we're going to do is, Mrs., we're going to put this through a committee and then we're going to see what they say. So I think I waited 4 months and then I got results that told me, dear Mrs., we found that your work failed. I kid you not. They didn't say that this draft is missing such and such when the criteria demanded that you have XYZ. It didn't, like, my emails don't ever say that, you failed to do this. They just say that you get an F. And if you want to appeal this again, you can try. So certainly I tried. I stayed on it. Like, that was my entire MO for like a year after the fact. I was like, I don't deserve to have an F on my transcript. Y'all got to remove this right away because I didn't deserve it. Like, you have to prove to me. Now the burden of proof is on you that I failed this course. You have to have an unbiased lens when you're grading this stuff. You have to tell me how I failed a paper, which is no paper at all. It's a draft. Tell me that this man was not biased after he said what he said to me, after he's behaved how he's behaved and was bold enough to put it on Blackboard. So I run it through another committee. And at this time, I kid you not, I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I just had this intuition which came over me. And I was like, Jasmine, I don't think a committee exists. It doesn't make sense that you would have a group of people read my work and they don't have a name, they don't have a face. You just keep getting emails that you failed. And so I get some other nut job involved and she's not interested in really helping me either. She just wants me out of her department's hair. So she tells me that she's going to give my work to one professor, and that one professor is unbiased. It's not even a part of the department. He's just going to grade my stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. This F is going to be off of my transcript and I'm going to graduate. And that took another 4 to 5 months to get. I had to beg these people to let me know when I could expect my grade or respect any response. And I told this one, I said, it's very strange that I don't even know, because you're telling me that someone's grading my work, but there's no proof that they exist. Who is this coming from? I'm running out of sand. I'm running out of time. And I remember contacting my school and going, I need the notice now. Do you have grades for me or not? Did this person grade my work? And I received an email in bold red letters saying that the teacher decided that I deserved an F. There's nothing that says you did not have this draft was missing XYZ. And so I said, they did it to me again. Now some invisible person graded my drafts, which all had track changes through them because it was mandated in the course that you don't turn in papers. You just have documents with track changes because they want to see where you started in September and where you ended in December. And so I'm giving drafts to people and they just say that you failed. They never tell you why. So from that point, I remember giving my work to the one person in life that I could really trust to be honest with me. This is the one person in my life. And we've all, it's good if you just have one person in your life who's in your corner, but they'll put their entire foot in your ass and give you the truth, whether you like it or not. I have a person in my life like that. It's my boss. I've been chewed out. I've been close to being fired by him. I said, well, self, if there's anybody in this life who's going to look at you and not have a reason to kiss your ass because you are his subordinate, it's going to be your boss. So I take my work to work. I asked my boss if he would please find the time, and I know it was a lot to ask of him, after work, to look at my work and check, cross-reference against the criterion stuff. And my boss was just kind of looking at me like, okay, fine. Now, again, I reiterate, my boss is one of those people, I strive to be like him. He is honest to a T. He will just, he can be cruel to be kind. That kind of guy. I gave my boss all of my work. And on my life, on the Bible, on any scripture you hold as dear, this man contacts me and he is confused as all hell. And he says, my biggest issue, Jasmine, is that you have a professor basically giving you feedback, not accusing you of anything at all, but he's talking more about himself. He's not grading your work. As a matter of fact, Jasmine, like I'm listening to my boss tell me that, as a matter of fact, my boss went through all of my work and highlighted all the things that my previous professor accused me of not doing or being vague about. Where my boss, who has almost fired me before, is looking at my work and going, he's accusing you of not answering this question, but you did. You've answered it at least 4 times just on this page alone. Did you see it? I highlighted it for you. And I remember being in my car and just breaking down crying. And I'm just like, this is my reality right now. A Caucasian, progressive-leaning professor blocked one of the biggest academic accomplishments of my life. I took it so personal, not only because school is damn expensive and I've been broke as hell my entire life, taking 1 course here, 2 courses there for thousands of dollars that I pulled out of fucking thin air to go to class when I could afford to go to class, not just monetarily, but time-wise. I lost my mother, identified her body, went back to school, and I have a white man treating me like I can't be a conservative because I'm black. And so he was the only thing That entire school, that department that protected him, they were the only thing that stood between the promise I made to my mother, stood between my accomplishment. And only because they are politically biased at the University of the District of Columbia. I had to get legal representation involved. They were very honest with me. They said, Jazz, we need to look and watch how things line up. If the courts are stacked for Biden, if they're stacked for Donald Trump, don't you be stupid and think that judges are not biased. They didn't have to sell me anything. I already knew that. So after that university did what they did, I reached out to this platform. I talked to you guys about it. You sent me some amazing people to network with and to talk to. You actually helped me pay for legal counsel. You helped me so much for everything to come to a crashing halt November 3rd. November 3rd through January. Lord. Pretty sure I was clinically depressed. I know I have depression. There are birds chirping. I'll get better, guys. In the meantime, if you want to stay subscribed. I'll be back. Whew. Listen to me right here. That's hard to watch because, first of all, I'm wearing my hurt. Obviously, just look at my face. You can tell I'm wearing my hurt. I'm eating so much at that time. And I'm appreciative of how honest I was with you guys. I'm just going to say it is easier to talk about where you come from and how poor you are. That's easy to talk about. It's not easy to present yourself as a victim to the world. It's not easy. And so sharing that with everyone and getting so much support while at the same time I'm under a microscope. Understand that as many people who were supporting me, like you, I had a monster load of support. I also attracted people who wanted to harm me. I attracted people who wanted the university to suppress my ideas and treat me unfairly. So it's almost as if you should just expect 100,000 people to be on your side, and then you're just going to attract 200,000 people who just hate your guts and want to see you fail because they don't like your opinions. There's also a facet of this entire thing where you have people who aren't taking a side. They just want to sift through my story to see if I'm even telling the truth, which I understand. They want to make sure I'm not some grifter online, which I understand. And I was just going through so much, emailing people my side of the story, putting together these, I don't know if you've ever been in anything legal, but you have to collect so much information that you also have these binders that you put together. And then for me, I was walking around with these binders. I had them printed. I had them on PDF document files saved to send to people. I'll say this because I don't think it'll get me in trouble. I got the attention of someone who was very close to a congressman who wanted to know my story. But when Donald Trump didn't get in 2020, when that election just fell wayside, everything just vanished. I felt like I was just collecting soldiers behind me. And then those soldiers fell off and they were like, we're not going to go up against any court in Washington, D.C. because we know what the hell that is. And Jasmine, it just might be best that you just hold out. Let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what's going to happen with this appeal process. Now, I will say this about the appeal process because this is really what rocked most of my socks off, okay? It was the fact that I'm in this appeal process where I feel like the people who are grading my work don't really exist. I want to be very transparent. That appeal process was crazy because I can't prove anything, but I, as the woman I am today, I do not believe that there was a committee, and I don't believe that anyone graded my paper. These invisible people who have no name, who graded my paper, but they didn't say this grade is substantiated because you produced this work and it did not meet the rubric or the criteria. Like I don't believe that anyone graded anything. I honestly believed that somebody was taking the piss, as the English say. And this is what really kept me up at night, on top of me just trying to figure out how to keep strong for all the legal stuff that would possibly just really just take all of my energy and all of my sanity. I was also competing with this anxiety that there was some ghost or phantom committee that everyone wanted me to believe exists but doesn't exist. It was so hard to believe that somebody was grading my work. They weren't leaving any feedback. They weren't saying anything other than F. You know what I'm saying? I had every reason in that moment to believe that I was up against some phantom committee and they were giving me a runaround. I'd also like to jog your memories real quick of what I said in that video. It took 4 to 5 months for someone to grade my paper. Appealing again took another 4 to 5 months for another phantom professor to grade my paper. None of these phantom professors had names. They didn't tell me what I did wrong. They never graded my paper, they just gave me an F. This was a chapter in my life where I still stand on 10 toes. I stand on the business that I have survived indoctrination. I have survived subversion. I have survived having eggs laid into my brain by these progressive professors. I've also survived being blocked from graduating because my professor had political bias against me. No one will take that away from me. And now, just as an update, you ready for it? That professor has been fired. And your girl graduated. Hold up. I didn't get to walk across the stage though, but that was my decision. I made a promise to my mother that I would graduate, that I would achieve my degree. But I was so disgusted and depressed, as you could tell by how I looked back then, that I didn't want to participate in anything whatsoever. I don't know what it feels like to wear a cap and gown for my college graduation. I didn't go because that school put me through so much, and that was my decision. And do I regret it? Some days I do, some days I don't. But at the end of the day, let's just say there's a lot more to the story, but I don't want this video to be that long. I graduated on the dean's list, by the way. I was interested in politics. I was interested in ideologies. I excelled. The fact that I would fail a class that is the equivalent to a study hall where you come up with your own topic and you produce a Word document that has track changes through it so someone can see that where you started in September, you're landing in a different place in December. You're not turning in any papers. You're turning in a document of track changes as proof that you actually researched the topic that you chose. A study hall, a glorified study hall. And so, yes, I am a graduate. Yes, I did survive political bias. And I would love to probably just make a separate video filling in more context and going through everything. But I think this is enough, right? I delivered you the good news. That professor was fired. Oh my gosh, when I found out, I gotta leave that for another video. When I found out that he got his behind chewed off and they showed him the door. Let me tell you something. What I will say about it though is that I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like they got rid of him because of me. I can't prove anything. I just know that he was shown the door. But my campus would also have to still let me know as much as possible that my conservative opinions and conservative ideology is unwelcome on that campus. And that'll be another video. So if you're interested in watching, stay subscribed. I missed you guys so much. Oh Lord, I missed you guys. Also, if we just want to talk a little bit about the direction of this channel, we probably should go ahead and talk about that. I've got to be honest, I'm not your reaction artist. I'm into solutions. I explore ideologies. And truth be told, after everything that's happened to me, going through university, surviving subversion and indoctrination, and being blocked from graduating because I had the wrong opinion on a campus that's very progressive, that actually turned me into a secessionist. And that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. But let me tell you something. I have learned through countless hours of just studying and diagnosing this country that a lot of the problem is because our union has expired. It's a controversial opinion. I'm not saying that I'm endorsing civil war. I am saying that, Lord have mercy, it feels like there are two countries in this one country because there are two sides fighting to live in two different republics. If you want to live in a constitutional republic with democratic processes, that's very different from those who want to live in a democracy or a democratic republic or a constitutional democracy or however that word or name keeps changing through the years because etymology, right? At the end of the day, I think that a lot of things that are happening in America have to do with the fact that we're not competing for the same republic anymore. And that means that by extension, we're not looking for the same constitution. You understand? That's why sometimes you'll listen to a Democrat, which is a person who is putting their ideology on a vehicle that's going towards democracy. They interpret the Constitution over there very different. Does that make them evil? Does that make them bad? I won't say. I just know that over there, people are relinquishing their constitutional rights for their own safety. But if you want to live in a constitutional republic with democratic processes, you're probably just looking for a constitution that keeps government restrained at all times, right? You're not looking for it to grow anymore because you don't need to identify an entity as corrupt, only then to grow that corrupt entity into your life progressively, right? Because that doesn't make any sense. In any case, that's what I have for you today. This is my first video back on this platform. And now I'm going to walk to a bar. I'm going to have an old fashioned because I haven't had one in weeks. And I'm going to celebrate being back with you. And I encourage you all to stay in touch with me. Everything will be in the description below. Subscribe for more content. I'll be back. I promise.